One of the escaped criminals was Frank Morris. Born in Washington, he endured a difficult childhood, spending most of it in foster homes. His first major crimes were armed robberies. Morris's high intelligence enabled him to escape from correctional facilities on numerous occasions. Morris's criminal career began to escalate rapidly in the 1940s. He was first imprisoned for armed robbery in 1945. Over the next decade, he was held in various facilities across the country. Morris earned a reputation as a master escape artist, successfully breaking out of prisons in Florida and Louisiana. His repeated escape attempts forced authorities to seek more secure confinement measures. By the late 1950s, Morris was transferred to Atlanta Penitentiary. After an unsuccessful escape attempt, he was deemed especially dangerous. On January 18, 1960, Morris was sent to Alcatraz, the most secure prison in the United States. John and Clarence Anglin were born into a poor family of farmers. During the summers, they often traveled north to work in the fields. In their youth, the brothers learned to swim in Michigan lakes, which would play an important role in their future escape. The Anglin brothers began engaging in criminal activity in their 20s, starting with theft and breaking into homes. Before long, they escalated to more serious crimes. In 1958, the brothers committed a string of bank robberies. Their most notorious arrest occurred on January 17th, when they were caught during a heist at a major bank in Alabama. Both were sentenced to 20 years in prison. John Anglin was sent to Atlanta Penitentiary, and Clarence soon joined him. During their time, they attempted to escape by tunneling through a wall, but the plan failed. This incident caused them to be categorized as high-risk prisoners. On October 21st, 1960, John was transferred to Alcatraz. Clarence followed a year later. Reunited, the brothers began planning the most important escape of their lives. The evening at Alcatraz began as usual. After dinner, the inmates returned to their cells, following the daily routine. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and the guards had no idea what was being planned. Alcatraz operated under strict rules, with staff regularly patrolling the blocks and inspecting cells. However, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers had prepared a plan. The prison lights went out and the night shift began. The three men lay in their beds, pretending to sleep, waiting for the prison to fall silent. They were fully aware of the guards' schedules, when they would walk by, and how much time they had between rounds. During a routine check half an hour later, guards observed what seemed to be the three prisoners asleep in their beds. In reality, it was a ruse. On the mattresses were fake heads made of soap, toilet paper, and human hair. For months, the men had been working on a tunnel hidden behind the ventilation grates in their cells. They used it not only to prepare for their escape, but also as storage for tools. When the guards finished checking the cells, the escapees slipped through the vents into a service corridor. This corridor was one of the prison's unguarded areas. From there, they had to navigate to the pipes and ventilation shafts, one of the riskiest stages of the escape. They needed to move quickly and quietly to avoid drawing attention after lights out. In one corner of the corridor, they had hidden homemade tools and the key element of their plan, a raft. It had taken months to construct. The raft was hand-sewn from stolen raincoats, and the rubberized fabric provided buoyancy for survival in the cold waters of San Francisco. They had also crafted paddles to help them reach the shore. With everything ready, they moved on to the next phase, reaching the roof. The prison was built like a fortress, making it difficult to climb to the top. They went upstairs using pipes in the service corridor. Within minutes, they reached the roof, where they were greeted by a view of the dark waters of San Francisco Bay. In the distance, the city lights shimmered, and beyond them lay their primary target, Angel Island. The small piece of land was 2 miles to the north. Fog enveloped the Alcatraz, providing cover for the fugitives. The poor visibility and darkness made them harder to detect, allowing them to cautiously press forward. A few minutes later, the escapees reached a 50-foot cliff. Using a drain pipe, they carefully descended. Once on solid ground, they headed straight for the shore, where they inflated their homemade raft. They also wore life vests made from raincoats, their only chance of survival in the freezing waters. By midnight, the fugitives had launched the raft and pushed off from the shore. The craft was fragile and unreliable, making it vulnerable to even the smallest waves. The bay's waters became their final challenge. The escapees had studied the tides and currents in advance. Soon they found themselves in open water, where the waves grew higher and more dangerous. Clinging to the raft, they struggled to keep their balance, realizing that tipping over was tantamount to death. Early in the morning, the guards were doing prisoner checks. When they reached the cells of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, there was no response. Assuming the men were asleep, the guards entered to check. Instead of the prisoners, they found fake heads. At that moment, panic spread throughout the prison. The security staff immediately sounded the alarm, and the facility was placed on full lockdown. All entrances were closed, and the remaining prisoners were forbidden to leave their cells. Guards began searching every corner of Alcatraz. When news of the escape broke, prison management mobilized all available resources. Warden Olin Blackwell, in coordination with local police, began gathering evidence. Within hours, a full-scale search was launched. The initial focus was on Alcatraz Island itself, where guards and federal agents meticulously searched every area, including service corridors. Clues were soon discovered that hinted at the escapees' activities. Tools used in the escape were found in various locations, including spoons and a drill fashioned from a vacuum cleaner, which had been used to carve a tunnel through the ventilation system. Investigators later theorized the prisoners had constructed a homemade raft to cross the waters surrounding Alcatraz. One possible destination was a small island 2 miles to the north. As a result, the police have greatly expanded their search area. The operation involved the FBI, the Coast Guard, and local law enforcement. The FBI took charge of the investigation. Helicopters and boats scoured the bay, while San Francisco police patrolled the shoreline. During the continued search of the bay, a key piece of evidence, a wooden paddle, was found floating near Angel Island. This discovery reinforced the theory that the prisoners had targeted the northern shore. Soon after, raincoats used to construct the raft were discovered on the beach, further supporting the idea the fugitives had made it across the bay. Despite these findings, no trace of Frank Morris or the Anglin brothers was ever found. As time passed, the investigation stalled, and rumors about the criminals' mysterious disappearance began to circulate among the public. In the weeks following the escape, various theories emerged about what might have happened to the fugitives. The most common belief was that the men had drowned while attempting to cross the bay. The waters around San Francisco are known for their cold temperatures and strong currents. Many experts argued that surviving the crossing, even with a homemade raft, was nearly impossible. This theory was further supported by the discovery of personal items near Angel Island. However, others doubted this version of events. Those familiar with the Anglin brothers noted they had been strong swimmers since childhood, growing up near the cold waters of Michigan. Their resourcefulness during their escape suggests that they anticipated possible dangers and prepared for them. Over time, rumors from local residents claimed the Anglins had successfully escaped and were living in hiding. Some reports alleged that John and Clarence had been spotted in South America, living under assumed names. One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence was a photograph taken in Brazil in the 1970s. The image showed 2 men who closely resembled the Anglin brothers. The photo was presented by the fugitives' family, who insisted the men had survived and had been in hiding all this time. Facial recognition software analyzed the photo and indicated a 99% match. However, the mystery only deepened. In 2013, a letter added a new twist to the investigation. The letter, purportedly written by John Anglin, was sent to the San Francisco Police Department. In it, the author claimed all 3 escapees had survived, but had gone their separate ways. Morris died in 2008, Clarence in 2011. The writer, allegedly John, offered to turn himself in exchange for assistance in treating his cancer. The FBI took the letter seriously and conducted an investigation. However, the results were inconclusive. Although handwriting analysis could not definitively link the letter to John, there remained a chance he had survived. For years after the escape, the FBI continued to explore leads and interview potential witnesses. Agents questioned hundreds of people and conducted extensive investigations. Despite their efforts, no definitive proof emerged to confirm whether the fugitives had survived or perished. In 1979, the FBI officially closed investigation, passing the case to the Marshal Service, which continues to investigate to this day. The government notes, if any of the fugitives are still alive, they are over 90 years old.